A spectacular Rodrygo goes on the left wing and a fantastic Jude Bellingham lead Real Madrid to a 0-3 victory against Brest in a match that has left a lot to talk about. But above all, it puts Real Madrid in 10th place and now they await either Manchester City or Celtic from Glasgow for that playoff round. Let's see what this Brest 0, Real Madrid 3 has left us. Let's go. What's up, legends? How are you all? Welcome to what has been an absolutely thrilling final day of Champions League action. You will of course have Maldini's account of the Barca-Atalanta match and also Juan Rebel's account of the Atletico de Madrid match. But let's see what this match at King Camp was like. This match between Brest and Real Madrid, which as I said leaves Real Madrid in 10th place with Manchester City or Celtic Glasgow waiting in that playoff round. Let's go over the lineups of both teams because it has left a lot to discuss and I want to see everything that happened with you. Bisot in goal, Lala, Chardonnay, Koulibaly, and Matias Pereira, a player on the left wing who was not a left back, did not have a completely bad game, but some shortcomings were seen on that defensive side. Fernandes as a pivot, I think he played a very decent game, especially in the first half. Camara, Magnetti accompanying him on the flanks, Doumbia as a false attacking midfielder, Valde and Jorge up front, a 4-3-1-2, which was also the same formation with some nuances in defense and which above all was a team that came out quite brave. It is true that they are playing at home because it is not their stadium, but with the support of their home crowd, and they came out to attack, they came out to press very high up, then we'll see some screenshots of how this numerical superiority of 3 midfielders on the part of Brest, with 2 on the part of Real Madrid in the double pivot, who also changed roles, they changed flanks, both for Madrid and Valverde, with respect to what we had been seeing in other games in that double pivot. But as I say, the first half hour, I would say that almost the first 15 minutes were the most intense part of that high block pressure by Brest. But we'll see later, because Real Madrid did have certain problems there. Then at a certain point, the game calmed down, and at that moment, with the defense calmer and more in their natural midfield blocks, the talent appeared and Real Madrid won the game. For me, in the end, comfortably. Let's go with the 11 of Carlo Ancelotti's team. By the way, I haven't said that Les Melun, a player who came on in the second half for Brest, delighted me to orbit around here in the midfield. He seemed to me to be a leader, which he already was in this team in terms of criteria, in terms of directing the game. The French player is very, very interesting. Courtois in goal, Lucas, Tchouaméni, Rudy Garmendi, and I found Tchouaméni's performance again questionable defensively, uncertain in marking, and not always making the best decisions when coming out with the ball. He also struggled a lot with crosses, which I find quite curious since he is usually one of the best aerial players in the league, earning one of the highest salaries. But in that centre-back position, I still see Aurélien Tchouaméni as somewhat incomplete. The double pivot, as we mentioned, was formed by Madrid and Fede Valverde. It's true that many times Real Madrid would come out with 3 centre-backs, with Lucas over here, Mendy also pushing high, and with Lucas Madrid tucked in on the right side to help with ball distribution, forming this sort of trident. However, I must say in the first half, it was quite difficult for Real Madrid to get the ball out, and instead of Fede Valverde, who was heavily marked by Doumbia, it was Madrid that most of the Real Madrid players turned to for a bit of cleanup in that ball distribution. Brest really pressured both Bellingham and Rodrygo to drop back a lot to receive the ball. As I said, Real Madrid with their usual 4-2-3-1 formation, with Brahim on the right, who made a spectacular defensive sacrifice because Lucas was pushing high, and there were a lot of assists needed for Matias Pereira's runs, and especially for Valde, who I think had a very good game. It's true that in the second half, he switched sides, but Brahim did really well in terms of work rate. Rodrygo on the left, for me, was the MVP. He had a spectacular game. Rodrygo Goes once again feels incredibly comfortable on that left wing, scoring 2 goals and almost getting a third. That would have been a stunner. Getting past everyone. He looks super agile, super comfortable, and the Brazilian is looking really good. Jude Bellingham, for me, was the second best player of the match, as always, putting in a lot of effort, popping up inside and outside, drifting to the left wing, and dropping back to orchestrate plays when Real Madrid was struggling with ball distribution, and especially Kylian Mbappé up front, who missed some goals, but I think he also played quite well and was crucial in Real Madrid's goals. The match, as I mentioned, started with a very, very high press from Brest, coming out quite brave. And as you can see, forcing Real Madrid to play down the wings. Here, you can see that Fede Valverde was covered by Doumbia and also Lucas Madrid at a height very far from what could be the ball possessor, in this case Lucas Vázquez, forcing, for example, Jude Bellingham to come and receive. And so, well, reducing the effectiveness of that trident that we know is so dangerous for the white team in attack. I really liked Brest's pressure in those first minutes, complicating Real Madrid's ball distribution and forcing them to play down the flanks. Look here again, trying to block Real Madrid's ball out through the pivots with that superiority that we were talking about, 3 against 2, the French team. Look at how it is Rudy who has the ball. and forces the only player he has available on the left flank to play, which is Fernandez Mendy, because both Fede Valverde with Dumbia here and Lucas Madrid for Valde were constantly very close and were making it completely impossible for them to connect with the two Real Madrid pivots. And I think that in those moments, Real Madrid suffered quite a bit because they were not finding spaces behind the French team's advanced defense. And also, when Real Madrid managed to hold on to the ball a bit more, when the opposing team was already in a mid-block or low block, the defenders were extremely aggressive in their challenges. Look here at how Koulibaly, the left centre-back, steps up to challenge Brahim, leaving a lot of risk behind him because he has a lot of ground to cover if he intercepts any Real Madrid player. But Brest was really good in their activation during those first 15-20 minutes. From that moment on, the game changed completely. Around the 20th minute, we started to see a more dominant Real Madrid with the ball, pushing Brest back a bit more and, well, minimizing some of the risks from the French side. While Real Madrid wasn't trying to find as many transitions, they did look a bit more comfortable with the ball, and the French team also eased off on their high press. In the midfield block, we saw the brilliant steers of a player who is on fire, Rodrygo Goes, on that left side. It was a crucial moment in the match because Brest was starting to show signs of fatigue from their high press. They were in a mid-block. In that context, Real Madrid needed a spark from some player, whether it was Mbappé, Bellingham, or Rodrygo, who weren't really showing up much. Yes, Kylian Mbappé, who for me was the best player in the first half hour, and not so much Rodrygo Goes, who from this moment on had an outstanding game, causing havoc all the time on that left side. Here you can see that there are even 4 players marking him, and he gets away with such ease. Spectacular. First, he positions himself towards his more comfortable side, moving out to the right. Then with a dribble made by Rodrygo Goes that completely throws Chardonnay off balance, and finally with a cross shot that Bissot can't do anything about, even though he had just made a great save almost right before that with his head, which was already a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Great game by Rodrygo Goes that started with this goal. Rodrygo was scoring, and the first half did end, with Real Madrid hoping to play a bit more in a low block, or a medium block, I would say, leaving the ball to Brest, who obviously knew less about what to do with it than in transitions, because Brest did create some danger in transitions. The first half ended with a very interesting chance from Magnetti, a poisoned cross that almost scored a goal, and also one high from Valde, which, well, without being very clear chances, they were coming to Real Madrid with a certain ease. And above all, the most worrying thing, I would say, for the Whites are the crosses from the sides, because Tchouaméni has been quite inaccurate with them. In the second half, Brest came out much better, controlling the game more, having more of the ball, and Real Madrid in that mid-block suffered from this disallowed goal. Against them, this goal from Ayor. As you can see here, we can consider that Tchouaméni and Rudy are too close together. Tchouaméni is a bit poorly positioned. The ball falls to Ayor, who is indeed lucky because the rebound hits Tchouaméni and goes in, but it gets disallowed for offside. Just before that, I had an Mbappé to make it 0-2, but Real Madrid, who are still dealing with certain defensive fragility issues, were easily allowing the opponent to reach their area again. Here's the offside, quite clear due to Ayor's shoulder, and it could have easily been the equalizer. At a moment when Brest was pressing much harder until, in a transition, something Real Madrid hadn't taken advantage of in the first half, the yellow team, I think, killed the game with the 0-2. We mentioned earlier that Kylian Mbappé has been very important in the goals. It's true that he hasn't scored any, hasn't assisted any, and has missed several clear chances, but look at this play, because it's a transition when Brest was creating the most danger. He's right here, almost in his own area, lets the ball go by, and without even touching it, he's crucial in the goal. Jude Bellingham receives the ball, and he's done everything in this match. Just look where he is to receive it in transition. Kylian Mbappé makes a run to his left, dragging 2 defenders with him and leaving all this space for Jude Bellingham to find the player coming in at the far post. Brahim appears, Brahim passes to Lucas, and Jude Bellingham scores with ease in a team play, in a textbook counter-attack of what this Real Madrid has been and what it is becoming, which is a team that punishes almost every chance it gets in recent matches or in the moments when they are struggling. Because the reality is that they keep getting through with relative ease. They keep getting to Tchouaméni, who still isn't secure. But in transitions, they are once again a very difficult team to stop. And this goal was a good example of that. And here are, for me, the 2 MVPs of the match. It's true that Brest pressed a bit more after that 0-2. Thibaut Courtois made a fantastic save. That could have easily been 1-2. And then another shot from Valde from outside the box. But aside from that, I think the game ended at 0-2. And after that, Real Madrid had a bit more of the ball. It has been a comfortable match for him in the last half hour, and Rodrygo Goes has scored the 3rd goal. Again, Kylian Mbappé was crucial with this controlled touch towards his left foot theoretically, but then he went on to finish with the outside of his foot. the goalkeeper saved it, and Rodrygo scored to seal the 0-3, which, as I said, leaves Real Madrid in 11th place. And I want to throw a question to you, friends of Mundo Maldini. What would you do if you were Carlo Ancelotti with this version of Rodrygo as we're seeing him on that left side? It's a very open question. I'm not saying that Vinicius has to be benched, but the truth is that it is becoming increasingly clear that in both cases, in both Brazilians, their best version is on the left wing. I'll leave it there for you in the comments. Let's take a look at the statistics one last time. Notice this, 1.34, the folks at Flash score as always, 2.35 expected goals for the Madrid team, 40-60 in ball possession, and check this out, 23 shots to 14 of Real Madrid. It's true that many of those shots are from outside the box, a lot from Valde, but in the end, the fact is that Real Madrid wins. The fact is that Real Madrid shows their striking ability on the counter, and it's also true that Real Madrid continues to be relatively easy to break down defensively. But a solid win, a thrashing in France, and for now, they await either Manchester City or Celtic in the round of 16 or the playoff of this Champions League. And we continue with many more stars. A hug, Chardonnay.